Hi there berries, welcome to another support guide. We've covered a few already for this season, such as Seraphine and Karma and a couple of others, but today we're looking at Pyke supports. It's quite good timing for this video to be released for Pyke. We're on 11.5 at the moment, and in 11.6 Pyke is receiving a buff, so now's the perfect time to be picking him up if you're thinking about playing him. If you're not familiar with these support guides that I do, we cover everything that there is to about the champion, from the basics to the slightly more advanced tips that you might want to start thinking about. If you have played the champion a couple of times, then maybe putting out a couple of extra special tricks in your solo queue games might get you that extra bit of LP. But we'll be looking at the runes and the ability skill order and what the abilities do and what items to purchase. The video will be around about 40 minutes long, so it's very in-depth, and I'll go through it as cleanly and as fast as possible while making sure I'm not missing anything. For Pyke, there are two rune pages that I want to cover. The Hail of Blades is the most common one. However, there is a second Aftershock build, which is perfectly fine to do. I'll talk about both of them, and then once we've done that, we'll go into the practice tool and start looking at the abilities. So first of all, you've got the Hail Blades here, which does give you a huge amount of auto attack speed, which can help a lot, particularly during the laning phase when you catch out somebody. You've got Cheap Shot that does bonus true damage when you hit someone after crowd controlling them. The Pyke abilities have his Q and his E have both crowd control components, so we can basically get the bonus true damage very easily with Pyke with this. Zombie Wads, we have an optional item here called Umbral Glaive, which allows you to clear out wards really easily. When you clear out wards, they spawn like a remnant of a ward that converts to yourself, which gives you basically more vision on the map, and also the more zombie wards that you spawn, the more permanent attack damage that you get, which is super helpful. Ultimate Hunter, you've got two options here. You've got Ultimate Hunter, which will give you reduced cooldowns on your ultimate. A big part of Pyke's kit is his ultimate. However, you do have the option to do Relentless Hunter if you feel like moving around the map is the most important thing for you to be doing in a particular game. Do note that this is out of combat movement speed, so as soon as you're in combat, like with mobility boots for example, you'll lose the movement speed. But either is fine. I would recommend starting off with Ultimate Hunter. As a new player, it means that you might be able to get one extra ultimate like chain of events happening throughout a game. But you could also make a valid argument that Relentless Hunter will get you around the map more. But Ultimate Hunter is a good basic one to start off with. Then moving into the precision tree, one of Pyke's vulnerabilities is being crowd controlled. He is a squishy assassin, so if he gets locked down, it's not too difficult for the enemy to kill him. So Tenacity is a great way to mitigate the effects of crowd control. The 4 stacks of Tenacity are pretty good, and it can make all the difference. And then on top of that as well, Presence of Mind will give you a lot of mana regeneration back, particularly when you're ulting and executing people off with your ultimate. It can give you back much needed mana if you are drained out in a fight. Other options here, you could potentially do Triumph as well. That could potentially be okay. I wouldn't really recommend any of these though, like Coup de Grace and Cut Down and things like that, as your ultimate will be your main thing of basically taking out the enemy. But I think Presence of Mind is a solid option. You could potentially do Last Stand. When you're low on HP, when you're going into a fight, if you're having to initiate fights, Last Stand could give you a little bit of extra damage on your Q and your E, but I wouldn't really recommend it otherwise. Mainly just stick with the Presence of Mind. Then moving into the stat runes, definitely try and squeeze in as much Adaptive Force as you can. Some Pykes like taking the cooldown reduction, that's fine too. But I will say that the Adaptive Force, you'll be looking for plays early in the laning phase, and sometimes the extra attack damage can be all the difference of securing a kill. Not just from your basic abilities, but once you start moving into level 6 plus your ultimate and being able to execute off of that. But I have seen a couple of Pyke players doing ability haste. It's just kind of personal preference after you play a few games. And as always, if you are playing against double AP bot lane, then do change this defensive rune to magic resist. We'll cover the Aftershock build. This is the kind of build that you'll be looking at if you are afraid of all the crowd control that's happening on the enemy team. So if there's like lots of tanks, like about 2 to 3 tanks on the enemy team, Aftershock might be the better option for you because it'll be harder for you to move in and out of the fights. Aftershock will give you a little bit of tankiness during the team fights. The big downside of Aftershock is that Pyke's hook, his Q ability, will actually proc Aftershock, which generally becomes quite a waste. You mainly be wanting to trigger Aftershock by going in with your E dash, which we'll talk about in a moment. So Aftershock can pop off when you don't want it to. So this is why this isn't a very commonly used build these days. But as I said, in those team fights, this will make you a little bit tanky if you do use it properly. Demolish is perfectly fine to do. You could also do Font of Life, but Pyke's maximum health is pretty low. So I would just generally just stick with the Demolish in terms of like wanting to snowball the game a little bit quicker. Bone Plating, once again, burst prevention, and unflinching that gives you tenacity. So as we talked about earlier, one of Pyke's weaknesses is crowd control, so we definitely need some tenacity in our kit. And then taking the domination secondaries, we've got Relentless Hunter. Usually you're taking this build if there's lots of things that you need to kind of get away from. Relentless Hunter can help with that. You could once again do Ultimate Hunter if you wish. And Zombie Wads gives you lots of extra vision on the map, and you'll be probably taking an Umbral Glaive, so that would be more priority over than doing slightly more damage in the laning phase. And in the same situation with the runes as well, with the stat runes, cooldown reduction dependent on what you want. And if you're up against double ability power in the bot lane, make sure you take the magic resist rune. Summoners for Pyke are very standard, that you pretty much are always taking Ignite and Flash. Pyke has some great combinations with Flash, which we'll go through very shortly. But Pyke is, always looking for those kills, always looking to secure kills with his ultimate. When he ults and executes someone off of the ultimate, your team will get, yourself and your teammates will get extra gold. So it's a huge portion of Pyke's kit is his ultimate, making sure that kills do happen. So we're just into the practice tool here. What we'll do is we'll start talking about the abilities, and then we'll start talking about the skill order, and then we'll be going into the items. So to explain the abilities, we're going to need some target dummies. So let's get a couple of these down. And let's make sure these pesky minions don't spawn, and let's give ourselves some levels here. Okay. So, Pyke is an assassin champion. He's very unique to the support role. You won't find another assassin support, at least in 2021, like him. The other kind of like unique kind of champion in a support role is Senna, and I'll be covering her later in a different guide. But these champions are very, very unique. So their items are very different from traditional support items. So following a guide like this will help you a huge amount in getting you like started off on the right track. So we start off with Pyke's passive. Pyke's passive recently got changed in 2021. They tried to nerf him in solo lanes. He was being played mid a little bit, and just try and keep him into the bot lane. And they've done this by reducing the amount of stored health dependent on how many enemy champions you're nearby. So if you're near 2 enemy champions, when you take damage, you're going to get something called grey health. And that grey health will heal you back over time when you are not seen by enemy champions. So when you're in a brush and an enemy can't see you, if there's no ward in the brush, you'll start regenerating back your health. So basically, when Pyke takes damage from enemy champions, your health will deplete, but it will leave a little bit of a grey health bar. The more enemy champions that are nearby, you'll get more of a grey bar to be able to heal off. That's essentially what it is. This scales off lethality. He does store, the amount of health he stores is based off your attack damage, but generally, particularly if you're doing at least okay in a game, the storage health doesn't really make it much of a difference, because usually it will be the storage of health will be more health than you actually have, so that attack damage portion basically becomes irrelevant. But the more lethality you have, the more grey health that you can store. So this is quite nice when you're in the mid game, get poked down quite low, and then you just exit out of the team fight, just wait into a brush and just heal up really, really quickly. One of the things I should probably mention while we're talking about grey health, one of the runes I didn't cover is Revitalize in the Resolve tree right at the bottom. That will not increase Pyke's healing, but it will speed up the effect of grey health. But I wouldn't recommend it, basically because of that, because you're not getting increased healing, and it's just only going to increase the healing by a marginal amount of time. So Pyke's passive is the grey health. Also, there's a secondary passive there as well. Pyke can't get extra health. The only health he gets is from levels. So if you buy a ruby crystal, all the bonus health from that will be converted into attack damage. Unfortunately, the ratio for that is pretty bad. So building like items, generally you want to stay away from items that have bonus health on, because the conversion rate is generally pretty bad. On this support item, you'll have some bonus health. So for example, the steel shoulder guards here have 30 health, and that will be converted into 2 attack damage basically. So from the steel shoulder guards, you basically are getting 5 attack damage, but no of the extra bonus health. Next, we're going to be talking about Pyke's Q. There are 2 portions of this. So you have a little tap Q. If you just tap the Q, it's just a little, he stabs in front. So it does the same amount of damage as the Q as if you were to channel it like this. But the difference is that A, it's instant, and B, it slows the target. Next, the channeled portion of this is basically your standard kind of like hook champion. Generally, the distance is fixed on the actual hook itself. So if you're standing like really, really close to the target, they're actually going to go over your head. However, if you do like a max range hook, they'll be in front of you. It's always a set distance on the hook. So this is quite a nice tool that you can just fling them over your head. There's some situations where you might want to bring someone under the turret. So a surprise kind of like flash Q like that can also help them get under the turret. So it's a bit more unique compared to the other hook champions, where the hook always brings the champion generally towards the champion, but the cap is usually until it hits the champion. This is the same even with like Nautilus, like Thresh for example. You know, the cap is like on top of the champion. This is the only hook in the game at the moment where it's just a fixed rate and you basically can fling them over your head. Pyke's W is a stealth. You can be seen by controllers with this, and turrets can also see you. So W will make you stealth, and when we were talking about the passive, you can also heal your grey health while in the W. W will also give you movement speed that also scales off lethality. So the more lethality you have, the faster you are while you're camouflaged and stealthed. So you've got some little indicators here. So if you see, that's when they can nearly see you, and then that's when they can see you. So that's the icon there, is that the enemy champion can see you in that situation. And the little like half closed eyes is when they can nearly see you. Now there is a downside to Pyke's W, excuse me. There's a downside to Pyke's W. where you see like this little circling sharks around. They're going to get an audio signal that Pyke's nearby. Like dramatic kind of like stealth music. So if possible, you kind of want to engage people without having to use the W. The range is quite long. I'd say it's about double, maybe not quite double hook length, but like a hook and a half length is when the sound effect will start activating. So, and this will happen in the entirety of the circle. So if you're in a brush and you're popping W, the enemy team will get a signal that you're stealth nearby. So you need to be careful a little bit on how you use the interaction with your W. And as you can see, 2 of those champions there can all hearing the audio signal from Pyke. Pyke's third ability is his E, his dash, and it does a stun at the on the dash as well. Now this is where the Pyke starts getting into very high mechanical things. So I'll do my best to explain all the tricks that you can kind of do with this ability. So let me just show it off first. So E is a dash, and after a short delay, where the Pyke has ended up, it will like follow until it reaches the champion. And if it hits anything during that, it will stun them. So you can like, reposition this with both ultimate and your E. I'll show you the ultimate in a second, but with flash, for example, say I mess up my E dash. If I actually flash, I can redirect where that goes. You can kind of do this to predict like flashes by enemy champions as well. So say if you do like this and they try and flash away, you can still get them with the follow-up of the of Pyke Shadow. We'll call it the Pyke Shadow. They're actually reducing the cooldown of this in the next patch. You're going to be able to, but every point you put in this is going to go from 15 to 11 seconds. So you're going to get to do this more often as well in team fights. The damage is also gated by how much lethality you have. So the more lethality you have, the longer the duration of the stun, basically. You can stun multiple targets with this. There's no cap, but this won't deal damage to minions. This only does damage to champions. Pyke's ultimate is this massive cross that you can see waving around here. If you land this cross on an enemy champion, then you'll be teleported to the center of the cross, no matter what. A secondary portion of this ultimate is that the enemy champions will have a execution indicator on them. If they fall below that in terms of health and you ult them, they'll instantly die. They get executed off. This ult will then do true damage. If the enemy is shielded, say the enemy had 1 health but a million shield, they will still die to this as this ultimate goes through shields. A third component to this ultimate is if you did execute an enemy with your ultimate, Pyke will receive a item called Cut Purse. Now this item can generally hold up to 300 gold. So you get that if you execute an enemy on top of the kill gold. And also the ally that gets the primary assist, like the last assist hit on the champion that you hit, will also receive a Cut Purse as well, or your cut it's called. And they will receive up to 300 gold from that as well, on top of their assist gold. So generally when you're ulting people and getting the executions off, your ally will generally be getting 450 gold. There are a couple of things I should mention with this. Draven, if you execute an enemy like this, and Draven is the primary assist target to receive the gold, it will count for his passive. so you don't have to worry about letting Draven have a kill. I believe if it's first blood when you're doing this execute, which would be quite rare in your games, the cut purse goes up to 400. But let's say if you're executing ulting a target that is currently like 080 in KDA, and they're not worth that much gold. Say if you kill them, like if you were to kill them normally, they would only give you like 130 gold. The cut pass would only give 130 as well. Now in terms of like kill bounties, you can't transfer those kill bounties to your team. You would actually get the bounty. So say if this target dummy had a 700 gold bounty, I don't know how that would happen, but if this target dummy had 700 gold bounty and you execute it, you would get 700 gold for the bounty. You would get 300 gold for the base kill. You would also get 300 gold from a purse. Your ally would get 150 gold for the assist and another 300 from a purse. So you can see Pyke gives a lot of gold to your team. So your ally is getting 450, and in that situation you should be getting 1,300 gold. There's another interaction that we need to talk about with the ulti, is under the condition if you channel your ulti like this and your ally kills them as you're flying in, it will still count as an execution because you channeled the ability. Pyke will instead then get 2 cut purses, and your ally will just get the primary kill. So Pyke will actually give himself 600 gold in that situation, and if he's the primary assist target, then it ends up being 750 gold. So you can see how it can snowball quite a lot. Another component to this ultimate doesn't stop, does it? So another component to this ultimate is if you manage to execute somebody, you can recast this ability within 20 seconds at no cost whatsoever. So you can imagine it's quite easy to get pentakills. If you hit, say for example, 2 targets together and one of them dies, so the person that dies would effectively take the true damage as they were in execution range. The secondary target would take the lower amount of damage, so in this case it would be physical damage as opposed to true damage. And then if that hit, because of that hit, if they end up being under the threshold, you can just ult them again, and then you'll be executing them, and then it'd be even more money for your team. Now I did say there was an interaction with Pyke and his E. So because you always teleport to the center of the cross, sometimes you aren't able to get a kill unless you use your ultimate as a gap closer. So say if my team's coming through where I am right now, and we want to engage on a squishy AD carry on the back line, what we could do is we could do like an E and try and flash over, and you know, it might work. It's quite a long distance away, but it would be pretty tricky. But we can do E dash, ult behind, and then stun the target. As long as you position yourself in the center of the cross. So let me try and do that. It is pretty difficult. So there you go. That's like probably the most advanced thing you can do on Pyke. So that E dash travels all the way through. Because of teleporting behind this champion, it's following up as well. So you can kind of combine this with flash. So this is where it gets very very tricky. I'll see if I can do it first time. So E flash ult. I missed the ulti. Let me try one more time. This is a very good way to practice in practice tour. E flash ult. There we go. Second time. It is very difficult to do, but if you can get it done in your solo queue games, then it will look really impressive, but just make sure you have a follow-up, otherwise you will have nothing left at the end here. So you definitely have to do your E first to get the shadow out. There you go. Gets easier once you practice it, for sure. So E, flash, ult. There you go. And stab and kill and then run away. There's all the advanced kind of things I want to talk about on Pyke. Actually, there's one other thing that we can talk about on his Q, is that, you know how I was mentioning how his Q is a set distance and can fling over? You can actually fling people over these ledges. So if someone was standing here, I guess we could showcase that. So if we teleport over here, hey Scuttle, and let's put an enemy target dummy there. So if we do this, we can hook someone over the wall because it's a set distance. I think maybe around about there can also work as well. Beautiful. So you can hook people over this ledge. This is quite nice when, say, some people do really bad pathing after pulling for blue buff for their jungler. They pull this blue buff, but for some people, for some reason, path down here. So you could always put like a cheeky ward there and just grab them over as they're coming over, and generally you can force the flash by doing that. It's sometimes happens. It's more likely to happen in kind of like between like iron and silver that someone would randomly path down here, but it is always possible. Right, let's head back towards the fountain now, and we'll talk about the items for Pyke. And as mentioned, you know, if you're playing a lot of support, these items are going to be not too familiar with you unless you've already played assassins like in the mid lane or in the jungle. So we'll be taking these steel shoulder guards, as mentioned earlier. Steel shoulder guards, the health will get converted into attack damage, so this item has 5 attack damage from level 1, which is quite nice. Basically you'll be executing minions with this, primarily cannon minions, in order to generate gold. And then you're looking at a mythic item as your first item. I personally really like Prowler's Claw, but some people also like doing Duskblade. I'll talk about them both now. So I'll tell you my favorite item first. So I like going towards Prowler's Claw first. So Prowler's Claw gives you extra lethality for every legendary item you pick up. So legendary item basically means fully completed items in your inventory. So for example, when Steel Shoulder Guards fully completes into, like all the way down into Pauldrons of White Rock, that counts as a legendary item. The only thing that doesn't count as a fully completed legendary item is Boots. So later on when we buy like an Umbral Glaive, that will be as a full completed item, that will be a legendary item. So this item also has a lot of lethality, it has a lot of ability haste, so more cooldowns off, so more ults, more stuns, more hooks. Lethality scaling on your W equals more movement speed, equals more stun duration on your E, equals more ult damage, and more execution on your ultimate. Now the nice thing with Prowler's Claw is that you dash through enemy champions with this, which is pretty nice. And also you'll do a 15% increased damage to the target, which will help with your Q and your E and your auto attacks. So if you're running like Hail of Blades, your auto attacks will start doing quite a lot of damage to the target. But you can also like weave this in with your E as well. So say if you cast your E and you're not quite in range, so instead of like using the ultimate in the abilities section, you can use your Prowler's Claw to help get you into range. So you can get into insane distances here if you don't have your ultimate ready, or you don't want to use your ultimate. So you can do like a E flash, Prowler's Claw, get through your target, and then execute them off. Does a lot of damage, a lot of mobility as well. You can actually use Prowler's Claw on minions as well. Just throw that out there just in case you need to get out of a sticky situation. Alternatively, some people like running Duskar. So Duskar, once again, has a good chunk of lethality, not quite as much as Prowler's Claw, but almost the same amount. Ability haste is the same. Instead of lethality on the mythic passive, we have ability haste. Just realized my head's in the way, so you can't really see that. But there's ability haste on the passive, so the more legendaries you have, the more haste you have. But this time when you execute enemy champion, you'll be true stealth. Basically, you'll be invisible for 1.5 seconds. So you ult, you execute, and then you're invisible for 1.5 seconds. So this gives you less utility, less mobility, but it gives you more survivability. So you might want to do this if the enemy team has a lot of crowd control, and you're getting an ult off, and then you basically are hidden for enough time to kind of like sneak away and reposition, either for another ultimate or just to get away. So Prowler Claw is more about getting in there and executing them off, whereas Duskar is more about just surviving after you're able to do that. So it kind of depends on what kind of situation you're in, whether or not you want the extra engage mobility or you want the extra potential survivability. But I prefer the Prowler's Claw because I think it's important to get the mobility in order to get the kills in the first place. But it's personal preference. So in this situation here, I'm going to be taking the Prowler's Claw. While building the Prowler's Claw, while you're getting to that point, you have a lot of boot options here. Suggested items, mobility boots are a very fair option to suggest. Will give you a lot of roaming around the map, as you can imagine with your W movement speed with boots. You're getting between in the river and in the enemy jungle a lot. You can do a lot of good things with all the movement speed that you have here in terms of making plays. Alternatively, I wouldn't recommend going I wouldn't recommend taking any of the defensive boots like plated steel caps or even Merc treads. I think the tenacity that you have from runes is enough. I don't believe having any more tenacity will help you too much, unless maybe like the enemy team has a lot of mages and a lot of crowd control. Maybe then you could do Merc treads. If possible, I would highly recommend doing lucidity boots if I can find them. If I can find the boots. Where are my boots? I am going crazy. Boots, please. There we go. Ionian boots of lucidity. This gives you another 20 haste. Movement speed is the same as any of the other tier 2 boots that basically aren't boots of swiftness or moby boots. And it also gives you summoner haste, which will reduce the cooldown of your ignite and your flash. And it's super cheap as well. 900 at the moment. I think this item's busted. I think this item should be 1000 gold, by the way. But for 900, you're saving a lot of cash, you're getting a lot of mobility, and extra cooldowns are more than welcome. Next, going into the second item, you're looking generally like any of these three items here offered. The Umbral Glaive, the Yumumus, the Edge of Night are all very, very good options. They all have lethality on. Some have more, some have less. Some have more utility, but they all kind of have utility, but each like their own unique aspect. So Umbral Glaive allows you to do triple damage to wards. And also when you get near a ward with a cooldown of 45 seconds, you'll get a little like Oracle's eye above your head, like a pink eye. And it will allow you to detect enemy wards and traps. Effectively, you can one-shot any trap and any ward apart from control wards. Control wards will take 2 hits as opposed to 4. And normal wards will take 1 hit as opposed to 3. So as you can see, when we were taking the zombie ward, we're going to be using the Umbral Glaive, hopefully taking this next item second. So this will give you a lot of map control. Every time you kill a ward, you're bringing up your own zombie ward. And you can basically out-contest vision in an area compared to the enemy support very, very easily with this item. This is also really, really useful if you're up against like Nidalees and Teemos and anyone else that's putting traps like Shaco and just trying to think any other form of traps. You'll be able to just kill very, very, very easily. And the Oracle's Eye will also disable the wards as well, so they'll lose vision of you near instantly as soon as you start like getting near those wards. It's a very, very good item. It's a rare item for any champion to kind of really pick up these days because it is a support item, but there aren't many support or any apart from Pyke support assassins. So it's a very unique item to Umbral. So Umbralglaive is also very cheap as well compared to the other ones. So 2.6k compared to 3,000 and 2,900. So it is your ideal second item after your boots and your mythic item. Now here we have more kind of combat utility as opposed to macro vision utility. So your Moo gives you bonus movement speed, passively 40 bonus movement speed, which is a huge amount. And when you activate the item, you're also going to be getting ghosting, which it allows you to walk through units. And it will also give you a 20% movement speed. So this will help you position in fights and engage. I would generally buy this item after Umbralglaive. I don't really feel like you'll be needing this before then, as the Umbralglaive is just such a strong item for your support kit. The other option is Edge of Night. Now, Edge of Night is something that seems really good at first, but also at the same time probably won't provide you with too much. So Edge of Night, we'll pick it up. So it gives you this blue shield around you. If it gets popped, you have to wait 40 seconds for it to come back up again. And it will block one enemy ability. So sometimes if the enemy has no poke champions, so for example, like if an enemy had like an Ezreal and he was just firing out Mystic shots, his Q ability out a lot, and you catch one of them, you won't take the damage, but it's going to pop your spell shield. That's not kind of the thing you're looking to block. You're looking to kind of block big ultimates or like crowd control effects on your character. Now, it's quite tricky to say whether or not you're going to be blocking something vital with the back shield, but I would say with the Edge of Night, if the enemy team has poke champions, I would not recommend picking up Edge of Night, as you'll just lose the shield very, very quickly anyway, and you're much better off gearing up into the other lethality items. So let's pick up the Umbralglaive and the Yumumus. You've got one item slot left. You could complete that with an Edge of Night. I wouldn't really recommend any others. It's either basically Edge of Night as your kind of like last item. You could do a Guardian Angel. So if you're not familiar with this item, it has a really, really long cooldown if you do die. But on the way, you'll pick up a stopwatch. So the stopwatch will give you stasis. So you go golden, you won't be able to move, you won't be able to cast anything, but you also won't take any damage. This allows you to get some cooldown time off your abilities. So say if you get caught in a really, really bad position, you stopwatch, maybe your teammates can help you out, but also maybe your E is about to come off cooldown, and then you can use that to get out of a very bad situation. And then when you get into Guardian Angel, if you do die in a fight, then you'll revive after a short duration. I will add though, if you do Guardian Angel and you have already ulted somebody, and say you took them down with your ultimate, and it's like you've got that 20 seconds of free time, if you die with GA up so that you revive, it will actually glitch out your ultimate so that you actually won't get to cast it again. So I don't generally pick up GA because of that reason, Guardian Angel. I feel like your better options are Death's Dance if you wanted a survivability tool. It's a bit more expensive, but basically what this item allows you to do is it allows you to delay the damage taken onto you. So the damage happens like slower over time, and if you take down an enemy champion, you're basically removing that delayed damage off of you, and you're getting bonus movement speed, and you're also going to be generating a little bit of health as well. So this item is particularly good on Pyke if you're ending up like dying a lot in fights and you're struggling a lot to stay alive around those team fights and they're lasting quite a long time. Death Dance could be a good item, potentially better than your Mumu's in that case. As you know, if you can land the execute, you're going to be wiping off that damage that's tagged onto you, and kind of like repeating that process, hopefully, with another ultimate and another ultimate. I wouldn't advise buying Grievous Spoons on Pyke. If you really wanted to as well, you could also do a Ward Stone to give yourself a lot of extra ability haste once you hit level 13 plus. But otherwise, in the items pool, this is like kind of like a very standard like Pyke build with the items that I have currently in my inventory with the Prowler's Claw or Umbral Glaive and your Mumu's. So as you can see, that Pyke's a high mechanical champion to play. I'll talk very briefly about his skill order. So as always, you want to take your ultimate whenever you can. You want to max your Q first, which is your hook, or your tapping like little poke damage there. Your E is what you're leveling up second, especially from 11.6 onwards, because this ability will be reduced in cooldown for every point that you put in when that happens. So you might as well start getting used to that anyway. And then finally you're putting points in your W, which does reduce the cooldown on your W, but it won't reduce it by too much. If you're watching this video and you're still on 11.5, just put points in E second, just because of the damage buff that it gives you. It's only plus 30, but honestly the amount of cooldown that you get off on your W anyway isn't generally worth it anyway. And it's all about executing people off as quickly as possible. So Q, E, W, ulti when you can. Well, I hope this Pyke guide helps you out. I know it's a bit overwhelming with all the different aspects. He is one of the harder support champions to play. In terms of when you're playing team fights, well, we'll start back at the laning phase. In the laning phase, you want to be as aggressive as possible, and then using your grey health that you're getting from taking poke damage, making sure you hidden away in a brush, heal it back up again, and then kind of re-engage. In team fights, you're going to have to kind of do like the opposite playstyle. You want to be like the janitor of team fights. You want to clean up. So you want to be able to go in once the team fight's already started happening, kind of come in for a flank attack, and then come and clean up, and then hope that someone else is low, pick them off, and then ult them off again, and just kind of like that kind of cleaning up playstyle. Some words of advice: your ultimate can basically be dodged out of if the enemy flashes just before you land. They won't get executed by this. Also the same with stasis. You know, the golden effect that I showed earlier. If an enemy is stasised, they also can block it, so they won't be able to be executed that way. But yeah, those are the main ways that you're going to have difficulty in terms of ulting, and also enemies can also dash out of it. Ezra could arcane shift away, so do be careful if there's any like movement abilities on the enemy team. Try and be aware of it. Like if anyone hasn't got flash, try and prioritize them in terms of executing. The more executes you get off earlier equals more gold for yourself and your team, so then you can use that to snowball. I will add as well, like it's not that uncommon to actually full build on Pyke compared to the other supports because of the gold generation. Like obviously if you're doing pretty well, like 6 kills, and you've managed to ult execute with all of those, you're going to be having a lot of gold. So it's not actually uncommon to be full build on Pyke. And in longer games, there's some cases where you'd be like left over with 2,000-3,000 gold in your inventory. If that's the case, just make sure you're picking up the Elixir of Wrath, in order to have the extra attack damage, which will also give you more, you know, ult execute as well. But I hope this guide helps you out. I know it's a little bit complicated sometimes, but I promise when you get into game, it won't be too bad. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section down below, and I'll do my best to answer anything. But now's the time to basically be playing Pyke, especially when Riot are looking to buff him up quite a lot. So, all the best in your games. Good luck practicing. I do highly recommend jumping into the practice tool and testing out like the E ult dash at least. And then you can get mega fancy with the flashes and things as well, like things like that. And you know, you can goof around a bit with visibilities while making sure you've got all the cooldowns off and things like that, just to practice. I'll be bringing out some more support guides for 2021, and just keep an eye out for those. I'm trying to bring them out every week or so, a new champion every week. So keep your eye out on that, and every couple of weeks I do a tier list for the new patch. So there's a new tier list coming out on Tuesday for 11.6, so make sure you check that out if you want to be up to date on what support champions to play in solo queue. But I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. I hope the guide helps you out, and be sure to check out the live stream as well if you want questions answered like immediately, and I'm online at twitch.tv/Bizzleberry. Be more than happy to help on any of your support questions. Other than that, stay very awesome, good luck, take care. So I had a suggestion in the YouTube's comment section for one of my other guides that they wanted to see gameplay footage with me playing the champion to kind of show off, like, you know, the runes and, you know, what I was going for in the guides. So here you go, you got a Pyke support game. It's just a normal game, but it's going to be kind of like a high ELO normal game actually. I did try playing it Pyke on my other account where it has like lower matchmaking rating in normals, just so that I wouldn't have to like be super stressed when playing this, but someone banned Pyke, so I had to dodge. So now we're on the Bizzleberry account. The MMR of this game is going to be anywhere from like plat to challenger. That's how, like, this Kaiser for example is in Diamond 3, so it's still like a high level normal game. Like this Garen's a Smurf in Smurf queue. This Garen isn't level 29, but he's definitely smurfing. And so is this cat. So we've got a few Smurfs in here. Basically, if you don't know what a Smurf means, it means they made a new account, but they're a really, really good player. So they're trying to like beat up the newbies. But there's a separate Smurf queue where you get only put with like high rated players. So it's going to be quite a high ELO game. I'm going to say we're going to put the average ELO in this game probably around about high diamond to low masters. Is roughly around the hidden rating in this normal game. But yeah, we're playing Pyke. We're playing with a Kaiser and up against a Jhin Senna. So against this kind of team composition in the laning phase, we're basically against double poke. If we can engage on top of them though quite early with the Kaiser, we've got some decent bursts there. However, if we let them put us down during the laning phase, we're not ever going to be able to engage. We'll be too low health, and they'll have full reign of control over the bot lane. As we get to level 6, when we go our ultimate, if you remember the execution little indicator on the bar will start popping up. I did mention how, like, you know, if they're below that bar and we ult them, we land the ulti, they'll die. But stuff like Senna heal on her Q and Jhin heal, summoner heal, if they actually heal themselves up as the ult is flying in and their health is above the execution bar, then they actually won't get executed. They'll take the lower physical damage portion of the Pyke ultimate. So we need to be careful about that a little bit as well. In terms of mythic item in this game, I probably would just stick with the Prowler's Claw. I do like that item quite a lot. Could also do Dust Guard just to kind of test that out a little bit, but looking for a Prowler's Claw game. In terms of like roaming around the map, Lux is going to be quite vulnerable. Katarina is quite a difficult champion to gank, just because she blinks around a lot and she can blink to minions, so she can get actually quite safe. If I see her use it, say if I'm approaching mid lane and I see her use her E, the cat's E, to blink onto a minion to farm, then that could actually be a really good engage opportunity, because then it will be on cooldown. But other than that, it's going to be pretty difficult to gank her lane. I won't be able to gank if the minions are coming down in the lane, because that will give her a tool, so I'd have to wait until like there's no more minions coming down in her lane in order to gank her as well. It gets very messy. It's possible, but it's pretty messy. So we're starting off with these the steel shoulder guards as always. team wants to do an invade, but we've got 2 AFKs, so we can't invade basically, which is a shame. You can stick around this Troll Brush. I'm not going to level an ability just yet, because if the enemy team comes in, then I can take my E and just dash away. But this isn't good news in terms of AFKs. Is that the Zin's waking up? Way good. And it's just the Aatrox that needs to wake up now. There we go, he's back. Pyke level 1s can be quite interesting. The hook is obviously quite good, but you won't be able to provide any more damage other than the initial hook. So it's okay, but also at the same time not super duper amazing. Okay, Aatrox is waking up, brilliant. Just gonna help pull for my jungler a little bit. I don't like doing this, I don't like pulling for the jungler, but if he's starting on the same side as you, then generally it is to be expected. So as mentioned before, we're gonna get poked down a lot. I think it might even be difficult to engage until our first recall. Once we get items and, you know, refresh our health and actually have more than one ability, then it'll be much easier to engage. So I'm just going to save my Steel Shoulder Guard charges for melee minions. Okay, the Pyke nearly hit the Jhin there. Yeah, this is the poke I was kind of worried about. And it's still coming down. There is a ward in this brush down here as well, so I can't get my grey health up. So you can see I was taking champion damage to grey health and now they can't see me. I can heal that back up. So there is a ward in this brush here. Zaya's currently... Kaiser can't last hit right now because of the threat that they're providing, and every time my hook's on cooldown, then that gives them an opportunity to look to harass. Just a bit tricky right now. It's to be expected. There's a lot of minions here as well, so a lot of these minions can just basically block my hook. In this kind of situation, against double poke, it's just all about surviving the first bit of the laning phase. Can't get to that kind of minion. So once we hit 3, I'm looking to go in. Okay, that's a Pyke flash. Pyke flash and a Jhin flash. Kaiser flashed a little too early. She does survive though. She had to use her heal. Xin might be coming down. There is a chance that Xin can come down from the river here, then we can do up another gank. Play Gragas the jungler is our top side. Come on Xin, taking a while here buddy. Brilliant, first blood. Now I'm just going to hold these minions here so they don't die to the turret. So this allows Kaiser to pick up this wave. And what I'll do here is I won't recall just yet. I want to get the last hits off here on my gold, otherwise I'm going to be way too far behind. Like I already missed out on a cannon minion, for example. Okay, so we'll pick up boots 1, which is this, just the basic boots, and we'll get a couple of long swords. Now, this is because I need the boots for mobility in the bot lane to help dodge skill shots and also help initiate, especially now I don't have flash. But also the longswords will give me more damage now as well to help execute if we do hit 6 in lane before we next recall. It's quite nice to get a serrated dirk if possible as well, before jumping onto the boots, just because the lethality buffs up so much of your kit, like your W, your ulti, the stun duration on your E. This is a really nice play here. Okay, Gragas flash. I just did a Q tap there because I knew the channel on my hook would be too long. If Kaiser wanted to do this properly, she could probably freeze this lane. So freezing is basically trying to keep the lane state in the middle. Just so that... Oh, okay. Let's see if I can potentially make a hook play here. So there's a Q tap there just for the slow. Popping a health potion here. I have Q ready shortly. But the minion was just there in time to block the Q. Kaiser unfortunately has no health, so can't stay in the lane. Just trying to push this so it hits the enemy turret here quicker. Alright, so Sunny used Ignite there. Okay. Basically got a free Ignite off. I was going to have to back off anyway. Two options here. We could go cooldown reduction boots, Moby boots, or we can go into more attack damage. I think we're just going to go into more attack damage and just snowball the lane up a little bit more. Good job from our top lane. One kill on him. So yeah, we're getting ourselves in a really nice position now to do ult executions. Very soon we'll be hitting 6. And then we can start looking to ult. Want that kind of minion. Nope, not going to get it. And there's my level 6. Do I think Kaiser should be auto-pushing this way back in? So you can see now I hit 6, you can see there's a faint white bar in the enemy health. Okay, E dash in to hook. Then ult finish off. I've still got my ulti ready. And that's another execute. Brilliant. There's no enemy champions nearby, so I can just use my ulti on the ground. It will do damage, but I won't teleport to the minions. And we can also get a turret plate there too. So we just got a lot of gold there. Zin's looking for a cheesy play here. Okay. Jin no flash. I don't have ulti, so we can't do any special ult execution plays. I didn't even get an assist there, which is fine. Oh, lots of flashes used there. Okay, I mean that was a bit weird, but 3 flashes used there at the same time. It's good to know that the Senna hasn't got flash now, as that is a way for her to get away from her ultimate. Okay, so we'll actually just jump straight into Prowler's Claw as opposed to picking up the boots. I think tier 2 boots, so boots of lucidity or boots of mobility, are better than moving into the Warhammer part. So if you can buy boots outright instead of going into the hammer, I would buy the boots. But because we can complete the mythic item outright completely, it's just better to have the mythic item. Much more stat value. Now we only need 600 gold to get the next phase of our boots done, and then we're looking towards the Umblegrave just to make sure we continue our map presence and control. So enemy jungle's down on bot side. Just gonna E-dash over and then hit that to knock myself over. There is a control ward there, so the W, because I was stealth, control wards do reveal stealth, but they also show you the ward as well to show that you are being identified. I don't want to do anything here while I know that Gragas is on the bot side of the map. Yeah, look, there he is. So he was waiting in that brush with the control ward. So it was a bit of a bait by them to try and encourage me to engage on them. Now Kaiser's freezing the wave, so the enemy have to overextend now. Okay, so one thing about the ultimate is that you can't ulti while rooted. Unfortunately I don't get to showcase any like mid-game team fights or anything, but it shows you like the core fundamentals of Pyke, and it shows you like what you can do in the laning phase. I don't think I'm gonna do another game of Pyke because I feel like what I showcased there is a good chunk of Pyke. The only thing I would say, like in team fights, you're waiting for the fights to happen generally rather than starting them off, unless it's like a very small skirmish, like a 2v1 or like a 2v2 or something like that. But overall that was generally a pretty clean laning phase. The Jhin actually rage quit. He lost his lane so hard that he rage quit. So that is the power of Pyke. You can make your enemies rage quit. But I hope you guys enjoyed that game. I promise it was a high ELO normal, normal game. This account, as you can see, the win rate up there is pretty big, which is a good indicator of high MMR and normals. But I hope you guys enjoyed the additional game added on top of the guide. If you guys like this, then I'll do this more often. I'm assuming generally the games won't end at 11 minutes, but hopefully it gives you a bit of a feel of, that I'm not a complete scrub at the champions that I'm showcasing, that I am actually decent at the champions that I am giving guides for, and it gives you an idea, or in this one at least gives you a clearer idea of what is happening and what you should be doing in the laning phase. And in the other videos we'll do team fights and stuff like that. But don't forget to stay very awesome, subscribe if you like this kind of content, let me know how you do with Pyke, and don't forget that I live stream at twitch.tv/Bizzleberry. Stay very awesome, and see you soon.